What is the highest and best use of philanthropy? We'll talk about that and more on today's Culture Builder Live. I'm Chris Wink. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Technically, the news organization with a community of technologists and entrepreneurs. How dollars can be deployed efficiently, effectively. We report on that in a lot of different forms. We're taking the slice around philanthropy, social impact giving today. Really excited for this conversation. I got three leaders of the space to have a conversation with me. Jamie Sears, Managing Director, Co-Head of Social Impact and Philanthropy for UBS US. Caroline Barlerin, founder and CEO of Platypus Advisors. She's also on the board of Global Fund for Women. And Nyra Jordan, she's the Social Impact Investment Director over at the American Family Institute. Guys, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So let's have a little bit of fun. We talked a bit about why is like quote unquote tech news site covering around philanthropy. We've always found there is a real overlap between how dollars are deployed. Corporate CSR, traditional philanthropic efforts, angel investors who also do philanthropic investments. The capital stack is really relevant. So I want to start, Jamie and Nyra, let me go with you guys. You guys have been in this game for more than a decade. Talk to me a bit about how you've seen philanthropy change. Both of you sit in impact within large corporate entities. What's changed over your approach to philanthropy over your careers? Jamie, I'll throw to you first.
Okay. I'm happy to do that. So not to start on a downer, but look, in the past 20 years, income and wealth inequality has grown tremendously. And that, the basis for outcomes related to health, education, housing, the foundation of our society. Because of that impact, the size and scope of the needs have grown. And I think at the same time, the availability and uses of philanthropic capital have evolved. The types and the numbers of people participating have expanded, and it's evolved. So that is just a little bit of context to what over the past 20 years have we seen in terms of progress. Philanthropy meeting needs and meeting the scale of needs that we have. I'm just heartened that sitting here in 2023, that a larger proportion of our discussions in the impact sector are about systems change. They're focused on outcomes, real outcomes, and advancing equity. And so that's really the headline for me about, representing progress and where we are. I think the way that you can invest in impact and the structures that enable you to do that we've seen progress there. In my role, co-leading our social impact and philanthropy business for UBS in the US, our focus is really on wealth with purpose. And so that purpose, different kinds of capital being able to be deployed to the point that you made, from charitable giving, strategic philanthropy, impact investing, sustainable finance, each has its place. And I think that's become more mainstream and more recognized. And I think that's really important, because this conversation around the highest and best use of different kinds of capital, along with measurable impact and a potential for returns, that to me represents both sort of progress that we've made and also the future of where we're going. I'm very excited about contributing and building the field around social and blended finance approaches. I think we've been long looking for ways that philanthropy can actually be more catalytic and be at the scale that we need to address the problems that we do have, but that are solvable.
I hear a widening and a deepening. Nyra, what have you seen?
I think we've seen, the expectation from communities and organizations that we support have shifted. So, when I started in this work as a corporation with a foundation, as well as now our Social Impact Institute, we would, we had organizations, nonprofits, typically in communities that were doing work that we would give dollars to. We would write checks, we would engage in volunteer opportunities with those organizations, and we would report that at the end. And I think newer generations, millennials, and now Gen Zers are saying, that's great, but how are those dollars truly changing the communities where I live. And if you want me to do business with you, and if you want me to be an employee of yours, what are your values, and how are you connecting to these social issues that are now plaguing me? High rates of incarceration, Jamie talked about income inequality. And so these are things that we feel that community members, as well as employees and consumers, are feeling. So they're saying, corporations, what are you doing and how are you supporting that? So I think a time where you could support nonprofits and say we're doing good in our community doesn't exist. Our consumers are saying, how do you feel as an organization? How are you taking action towards these social causes? And so that's what we've had to do. Next, we're going to write in what we believe the community, we need to get with community and what are those issues that are important to them and what do they need to see change? Because that's, in our opinion, at the Institute, we believe that proximity and innovation are how you drive change, and that innovation exists in community. So really connecting with community are being confronted with and understanding the changes and the innovations that they see and how.
Nyra, you might be cutting out. I'm not sure if that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Nyra, hopefully you'll come back in a sec. Technical difficulties, but I got a heart of that, a spirit of proximity. So actually, Caroline, to pull back the curtain for audience, I warned you that I was coming with an impossible question to you. Place-based philanthropy has been a big change of the last 10 years. Technically, we cover equitable innovation communities in a local sense. I've spoken to business and philosophical ethicists who speak about borders are irrelevant, and that if you really are serious about the best use of funds, right now the best use of funds would be buying malaria nets in low-income countries, because it is the most effective way to boost quality life with the least dollars. So, Caroline, you have worked at Twitter and Eventbrite. You have advised foundations around the world. Why haven't you always advised everyone to put dollars into malaria nets in low-income countries?
Well, Christopher, when you position it that way, I think you're right. I think everybody stop what we're doing. Everybody put our money into malaria nets. That's obviously the answer. We just stop this LinkedIn Live with that answer.
We did it.
No, I think in all jest, I think I appreciate the spirit of that, but I do think that there's a trend in the past 20 years of going from this top-down approach that we know what you need over there to now designing with community. And hopefully we're evolving into a place where we're designing by community, by community for community. So if we go into those communities where the experts in the past said, like, yes, malaria nets are the way. I think if we talk to people proximate, which both Jamie and Nyra talked about, people who are closest to the challenge will be closest to the solution. If we take that approach, they'll be saying, no, it's a bit more nuanced. We need to understand healthcare. We need to understand infrastructure. We need to understand change management and adoption of these things. And imagine if we all did put our money into malaria nets, it'd be a super saturated, diminishing returns of that solution. So I do think that through diversity of philanthropy approaches from short, middle, and long term, we're going to get more innovation and we're going to unlock more intersectional solutions that are required for the complexity of the problems that we're tackling today as philanthropists. But we need to do it, just like Nyra and Jamie said, proximate with an equity lens and intersectional to really achieve the results we need to for what we're facing these days, including a malaria net challenge. But thanks a lot, Christopher, for that easy question, easy softball.
Well, no, I'm glad you think, because I really like what your idea of like, go where do you have organizational or strengths, and that is interesting because there are parallels that are different than other places of the capital stack, and where dollars want to flood wherever it's most efficient. Jamie, you have always been interesting to me because I always take you very seriously trying to like answer the question of how do I do this well. I take seriously the capital I'm stewarding and the communities I'm representing. Wonder, can we talk a case study or something that you've been involved with UBS where you've thought about how your dollars go to the greatest good, however you view it in the seat you have?
Yeah, I think we were fortunate to work with Technically on our inclusive entrepreneurship report. And I just want to point to one example there. Project Entrepreneur is a program that we started at UBS many years ago. And this is around what drives long-lasting change. And for us, that was really about generational wealth opportunity. It's about ownership. It's about asset building, which probably makes a lot of sense for us, just given who we are at UBS. But to the point around what we sort of, if I could point to that as an effective, I guess, case study, there are a few things I think that we did that at the time were uncommon, but that we continue to utilize because it's about the outcomes that we're trying to drive toward. One was around partnerships. We work with partnerships of different kinds and different stripes. We worked with nonprofits and for-profits. We also, have worked with technically around the narrative around the work, knowing that changing and shifting mindsets is really core to seeing change and social impact. I think our approach to the work is something else that we've learned a lot from. We have had 1.0 and 2.0 versions of that particular program. We have intentionally paused to listen and learn and to evaluate how effective our work and our sort of approach has been. Learning and hearing from founders who we've been really fortunate to be a part of their journeys allowed us to sharpen our focus and to make changes where they were needed rather than us, just continuing with, I think, just an approach that we at one point thought was the right way to do it, in taking into consideration the communities that we wanted to serve and the outcomes that we wanted to advance. And I think the third thing is around really embedding ourselves in the ecosystem. It was our understanding of this enabling environment, for example, around entrepreneurs, and that could be, you could substitute that group for other groups in social impact and philanthropy work, but it was a way for us to look at what the systemic barriers were and what our role in that system was. So I think really being able to bring, in more of our institution, moving beyond capital, it's probably the only, that's my last thing that I wanted to say, because I think that so many of us do have resources beyond, obviously, the financial ones that we are utilizing. And it's been an incredible experience actually to partner together, truly partner with other companies, with our, nonprofit partners, for example, toward, I think, just a common goal, which is giving more people that deserve it a shot to build. So I think that to me represents learnings that we try to carry forward. That would be like a case study that I would point to.
I heard a lot of timeline in there. Like the tools that got us here might not be the tools that bring us to the next stage. You called out pause, which I think is rare, and credit to you for saying, okay, we're proud of what our initiatives did, but the landscape has shifted a bunch. Now where are we supposed to have the greatest use of our dollars? Caroline, I wonder if I could throw to you another of these like nerd concepts that I'm interested in how people think about is long-termism, or just balancing lots of different timelines. Hey, there is urgency today. We all know that there are people who are facing life threatening challenges today. We also know that we are dealing with problems that are generations long in scope. And Caroline, maybe throw it to you first about how you balance, speaking to clients and prospects, of how do you balance with both what needs to be done today and where we need to go tomorrow?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm missing Nyra on the conversation, so hopefully Nyra will be able to join us again. But our hearts break when the disaster hits, and we have many examples of that in the past 24 hours, 24 days, 24 months.
Yeah.
And so there's a heart of wanting just to react to that. And then there's also this head of saying, like, okay, we need to figure out the preparedness before a disaster, when it responds, and also the rebuild. And that's going to take a very, very long time. And, Platypus Advisors, we work with pre-IPO to Fortune 50 tech companies, wherever they are on their impact journey. But I think taking an intersectional systemic approach to say, like, where will this money go that is of the best use? And similar, Jamie, what are the assets we as a company have that we could harness the power of in addition to the dollars? dollars are dollars, and unrestricted dollars, multi-year commitment to nonprofits is gold, is what we need to do to really truly partner with a trust-based approach. And taking a step back and saying, okay, where are the intersections? Who are the other partners? What are the implications of the money that we be spending today? And having really courageous, candid conversations on shifting the power again to being more proximate, on what we can do today, but taking a long-term view. So for example, we do work in digital equity, to work for workforce development. We're working with one client right now on a 10-year, $100 million advancing and protecting democracy approach, which will go past any one candidate saying, I need money 2 weeks ago to run for this role. And it's really exciting to see somebody saying, you know what, over the next 10 years, we need to help advance and protect democracy. And that's patient capital, and thinking about that in terms of 501c3 money, like impact investing, all the different money. And so I think that it's a team sport, and there's different roles we can all play in it, from our heartbreaking and needing to respond immediately to whatever the disaster is, to taking a step back and taking a breath and saying, okay, over the long term, how can this money be thoughtfully used in partnership, Jamie, just like you said, truly in partnership and in community, across the sectors, to really solve things in a durable, long-term way.
I got to get out of here. So, Jamie, I want to tell you one question. Before I do, Caroline, one question that you just made me think of. I presume we just always think there will be some need for, as you said, like the heartbreak moment. Like there is a responsiveness. So I wonder if that goes back to what I think both Jamie and Nyra were alluding to of highest and best use of philanthropy. I guess all three of you said some version of this. Like you in some sense have to find what special strengths you have. And it is an ecosystem in which someone needs to take the lead. You know, the American Red Cross plays a role when the hurricane hits, and you're noting that you may have a strategic role in those times, but you might not be well positioned for that. So you might be trying to say, how do we play for long term so we reduce the impact of perhaps, you know, what climate disasters might do. Is that a fair assessment?
I think it is a fair assessment. And I think that the usual suspects that are doing air cover of the names that we all know, that we all can write checks to, is a fantastic thing. But there's also the true question of who is proximate, who is on the ground, who is already trusted, who is there and is understanding and working boots on the ground to help solve the problem in a very hyper-local way, that will be there after the headlines move on to the next thing.
Well said. And actually, thank you for that clarification. We got to go, but Jamie, I just feel like this conversation can't happen without the like, okay, what are you watching now? You thoughtfully said you've done a little bit of an assessment looking back. Trends of like how we think about best use of philanthropy. Are there stuff that you're picking up on?
First of all, I've loved this conversation, and I've already learned a lot from Caroline and Nyra. So I think I'd end with a few things. The collective action piece, and I think we all spoke about that. We recognize, regardless of the pools of capital that we have access to, the complexity of problems and the scale and the speed that they present to us means that I think people, more than ever, it's really about bringing diverse stakeholders together to give together and to mobilize. So second thing is, we talked a little bit about this. I'm so appreciative that Caroline brought it up. Creating solutions together, decolonizing philanthropy. The reason why we're talking about this is because I think, largely recognize that who is at the table when we're coming up with solutions is really going to impact the success of what we're trying to do. And the last thing that we're trying to, and if we think about both us as a company and then the clients that we work with, we also brought this up. I think that the need for more sustainable investment in this space is so important, and it's something that we can all, that's actually something that we can do from a process standpoint. I think giving people more runway, providing multi-year commitments, doing more unrestricted funding, it's going to allow organizations and leaders and the people that are in community to focus on what's effective, to allow them to do the things that they need to do and focus on outcomes. I think that's been long overdue, and I think that more of us are coming to that from large companies along, and a lot of private clients and philanthropists, because the things that we say that we want, we have to put our action behind what we want to see. change.
Well said. Jamie, Caroline, and shout out to Nyra, who had some technical difficulties, but all of you, thanks for adding this conversation, highest and best use of philanthropy. We will drop links both to the Inclusive Entrepreneurship Report that Jamie mentioned that gets at this, and we'll do other follow-on recap. Caroline, Jamie, thanks for being here. Nyra as well. Thank you, guys.
Onwards and upwards. Be well.
Exactly right. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks.